Hello and welcome to the video. This video is about this radio here, the orange Tx6i. I don't want to take a first look at this radio. It's one that I've been waiting for quite a while. Now this one is the updated version of a radio that a lot of you will recognize watching the video and a lot of you will really love as well. This was the one it kind of replaces. This was the ORX T6. It was a DSM2 compatible radio. This is actually a friend of mine that I just brought home because I needed to replace the antenna on this. He'd done the classic snapping the antenna off, and that was one of the big problems with this radio. That antenna did seem to get a lot of grief. That's actually a DS6i antenna that I think I've managed to get on there in a way that's going to work, and I've had to modify the case and do some other stuff too. But the reason for putting these together is I imagine lots of people who are looking at this radio will be more familiar with this one, so it's going to be useful to do a little bit of a comparison. Before we get into that, let me just show you how it comes in the box. The box itself is very nicely printed, and all you get inside is the radio, and you get a USB cable too. So make sure if you're going to be ordering this radio that you order some of the compatible receivers. An awful lot of the orange receivers that have been available for a very long time are DSM2 and DSMX compatible. So things like my favorite receiver. This is one of my favorites. This is the R615X. This has been in all kinds of models actually. It's brilliant for little foamies. They're cheap as chips, and if you're flying something like this on an older radio and it's give up, or you want to start flying and not spend a fortune on a radio system that's actually going to stay with you for quite a few years, it'll also work with this as well. Now this is one of those radios that's perfect for those of you that find things like OpenTX, the Taranis and the QX7 videos just too blowing complicated. Those radios are the ones that I always recommend, but there's a reason that my friend is flying things like orange, and that was because the menus he could cope with and he could change everything that he needed to. When that original orange radio broke, this wasn't available, and if it was, I'd have got him to get one of these. So every time I go around to see him, I'll spend a happy 20 minutes chimping around the radio, sorting things out that he needs fixing with the models that he's flying. So this radio is a great option for those pilots who want to get into the hobby, want a good featured radio that can do both planes, helicopters and multi-rotors, have lots and lots of models on one radio. This thing will support up to 20 model memories, which should keep most pilots going for the first 2 or 3 years of their life. Or if you wanted to get a second radio to maybe pass on a model to a younger member of the family or a friend who wants to get into flying, this with a compatible receiver would be a really nice way of doing it. So let me just cover some of the headline changes over the original T6. You'll notice the ergonomic design has been improved. The handles on the back compared with the original radio is a massive improvement. It fits so much nicer into your hand. The gimbals on this, it feels like the spring tension has been reduced slightly, so they feel very, very smooth, but I imagine the gimbals are very similar to what's on the original one from the flying with this. And the throttle has a slight notch. Now again, you could probably take the back off this radio and sort out that slight notchiness in the throttle, but for newer pilots I tend to find that that slight notchiness helps them with their rudder control, so they're not changing the throttle position as they're using the rudder. The menu buttons have changed dramatically from the original version 2, so we still have the scroll wheel, which is nice, but you don't have all these additional buttons here that was on the T6. It's all kind of held in this scroll wheel, and you've got a cancel button too. And that's one thing that I found that I was struggling with when I first started to set this up. To enter something, to accept what's on the screen, you press and hold the roller button rather than press enter. So if you're used to the old radio, that can catch you out. The switches have changed a little bit too. We have this lovely big power switch here in the middle, and then we have the same number of switches, but they're slightly different. Let me just see if I can show you what I mean. So that's a 3-position switch, so's that. In the original radio, it was a 2-position switch and another 2-position switch, so they've been upgraded. On the other shoulder of the radio we have similar thing, 2 3-position switches. On the old radio, again, they were just 2 2-position switches, more for dual rates than anything else. This is a slightly more customizable radio than that one. And then we have a 3-position switch, a 2-position switch, another 3-position switch, and a momentary switch, good for things like bomb drop and stuff like that as well. So let me just zoom in and let me fire this thing up and show you some of the menu bits and pieces. Now to turn the radio on, you just flick the switch, the power button in the middle, it has a little welcome screen, and then you're away. The two buttons on here, one is to start the binding process. That used to be done by one of the momentary switches on the old radio, and you have a cancel button here which takes you back up the menus. To access the menu, you just press and hold the roller button, and then you are into the main menu that, for those of you that did know the old radio, is going to look very familiar indeed. First thing I would recommend you do for this radio is just go into the display at the bottom. It will show you all of the channel positions for all of the controls. I personally found this one, when I first got it, the rudder was slightly out, so you can see at the moment that when I let go of the control, it stops exactly in the middle. That's how you want it. If you find that you're going to display and yours is slightly out, then it's probably worthwhile calibrating your sticks. To go into the secret service menu on this, if you look on the website, it talks about the manual and some FlySky bits and pieces. So I guessed, and it was right. If you use the FlySky secret menu system, which is hold both the sticks to the bottom left and turn it on, then here is the factory settings. I wouldn't recommend doing anything in here apart from do sticks adjust. And what you do is it says place all sticks in their middle positions. So make sure it's there. Click the rotary. Then move the sticks to their extreme angles. Don't have to go mad, just try and go into each of the corners a couple of times. Click OK, and then that's it. And you should find that everything is sorted. So let's just come out of there. Put it back on. So press and hold the rotary selector again to go into here, so we can do our servo setups, we can reverse individual channels, we can then go and sort out the endpoints so that we don't drive the endpoints past their limits. I'm finding here that it's staying well within the 1000 to 2000 range, so rather things like the Tyrannus, which completely overdrive all the channels and flight controllers tend to freak out, doesn't seem to do this, which is nice. We've also got the sub trim as well. No numbers here about what's happening, but in a model you just have to either be watching the screen in beta flight or eyeballing the servo just to make sure that the sub trim is all in the right area. Then we have the dual rate exponential setup so that you can set that up on the model. You've got throttle curve, you can set up throttle cut as well. There are a number of mixes, so there's quite a lot of room in there to set up more complicated things. Range test, you can set up your timers. This has telemetry support as well with the right receivers from Hobby King. You have the ability to set up the auxiliary channels. You can assign the different switches and all the other pieces too. So if we very quickly go into system setup, you can change the username, you can set up how you want the trainer mode to work, the LCD brightness and all of that goodness in there. But the one you'll probably spend most time is in model setup. If you pick model setup, then you can select the model that you're interested in, and you will find, goes all the way up to 20, but you will find there's lots of different types. So let me just very quickly show you how to set up a very simple model. So let's select model 4. We'll do type select, and there are 3 types on this radio now. It's a little bit more sophisticated than the old one. We obviously have airplane or glider, and again it'll set up the main channels for you. Have a helicopter setting in here, a variable pitch helicopter with different CPPM settings too, and then you have a multi-copter setting. So let's just go through that one quickly. Press and hold enter. Are you sure? Yes, we certainly are. You can change the model name if you really want to. I'd recommend doing that so you can keep track of which is which. But if we come out of here and go to the very top, we can run through all the different pieces. So you'll notice that some of the things have disappeared now. We're in the multi-rotor setting. So we have things like auxiliary channels and assigned switches. And the really nice thing is, because the firmware has been updated quite a bit on this radio, we can decide how we want these different pieces to work. So we can actually add both an arming switch and a mode switch, which is pretty standard stuff on pretty much all quadcopters now. So I would set auxiliary 1 or channel 5 to be a 3-position switch for mode, and set switch 6 to be the switch that does the arming. So if I just set the mode switch up, let's click enter on that. Let's decide the switch that we're interested in. Let's put it on switch 1, which is this corner switch. There we go. And now as I flick the switch, you'll see the position change. So position 0, let's have that down a nice low position. So if you're using something like an APM with this, you can actually set this to activate the different modes in an APM. Let's flick it into switch position 1. That 1500 is good. Position 2, let's put that way up to 2000. Press and hold enter and that will save it. Select the arming switch. Again, we'll select a switch we like the look of. Let's just use switch 4, which is this 3 position 1 in the corner. Switch 4, press and hold enter, and now if we go down to the display, you'll see as I move the mode switch, it's all set up, and there is my arming switch moving as well. So it's a piece of cake to set up for things like multi-rotors too. So I just wanted to very quickly go through this radio, show you the main differences, show you what was slightly different. Let me just show you the back. There is the trainer port, which was on the like the old radio. There's a USB connection here, which is nice, and it runs on 4 AA batteries. The big difference, of course, that you'll notice, it has this lovely flexible, quite sturdy antenna cover, and that hopefully is going to stop my pal when he probably ends up ordering one of these from snapping this off if he actually drops it onto the ground. If you're interested in me going through any particular things regarding setup on this radio, please pop a comment down below and I'll start a little mini series and we'll do a couple more advanced setups on this, so that if you do fancy one of these, you can get your model set up and be flying nice and quickly. If you found that video useful or like the content, then please hit the like and subscribe button down below. If you want to go the extra step, you can become a Patreon of the Painless 360 channel and help provide support for what I do here. All the videos created here are put into playlists, so if you're interested in a particular topic, have a look at the playlist, and they all are organised in there to make them easier to use. If you're not sure if there's a video for your particular problem or topic you want to know more about, then add Painless 360 to the Google search term that you're interested in, and that should find the video, article or content about the particular thing that you're interested in having a look at.